two things, and we have some other stuff that come up.
Yes.
If they are unable to stay on, they're unable to stay on the whole meeting, and they stay on through the voting, and then they get off, yeah, so we're not gonna do the voting. Okay, so if you guys can stay for the whole meeting, that's great, but if you after our votes, if you want to get off, you can move it.
Get off because I am in another meeting with USDA.
Okay.
What I did, I just stepped out of that meeting and I told them it would be a little bit, but I'd be coming back in.
We have to have, a couple of reports before, you know, that, you know, through the minutes, so we just go through the work from Emily. And then probably the speakers. And then we're assigned to speak.
Said she had a time from we just swap in.
Well, no, we have to then talk about it. It's gotta go in the order. But I think. Yeah.
Do you want me to call back in at a later time or do you want to call me?
I want you to call in about 10 minutes. How's that sound? Would that be okay?
Yeah,
It
I
might,
can do that. So it's 5:02. How about if I call back at 5:10?
yeah, you can call back at 5:10 or 5:15. Okay.
Okay, I'll do that and hopefully you'll be ready to take my vote.
Okay, thank you, because we gotta discuss it first. You gotta go through and discuss everything. Okay.
Yeah, not a problem. If you guys are gonna get started, that'll be about the right time.
Okay.
I'll call you at 5:15.
Okay,
Thanks, hon.
thanks, Roy.
That was just the other somebody.
So everyone could. Dan, did that sound like it was okay?
It was only when you're looking for this.
Yeah, and I sent you there so we could.
I'm sorry. And sorry, you got me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we can start the meeting. Oh, we can't, so yes or no question. Did we have anyone sign up to do this public speaking? Jeanette, are you gonna speak this evening? You don't really have a public speaker.
So anybody, can get a, outdated by a month, but this still good. Dot pretzel compliments of Southwest Airlines in the back of the meeting. I'll get some news when it comes.
He's fine, put it in his pocket and walking off.
They give it to him with a smile on it.
Yeah. Okay, we can call the meeting to order. This is gonna be sort of a short meeting because we do not have minutes. That we're not ready, so we're just skipping the minutes process. And so the next step would be the Animal Services Advisory Report. Emily? We have to turn on the mic.
Do I need to turn up?
Yeah, just hold it for like 3 seconds and then the light will come on. Wait.
And then on top of that, we want you to yell.
Or it might be on, to get it, so you can talk.
Hello.
Okay, good. Can everybody hear that? Compliments of Jordan. Thanks, Jordan.
So last meeting.
Except.
This, okay. Last meeting, we went through each of it. Do you guys want to, think about which numbers you want me to hit? Or do you want me to read the whole thing each time?
Can we let you know next time?
Yep. Okay, so we'll start with, oh, here we go. We'll start with dog bites by district. We're gonna be on, page 1. And so for the month of August, you're gonna look at, you see all the different districts, and then you've got your total of 66 for the month of August. And these are dog bites at the header of the section. Then you've got dog attached by district, total for the city was 44. The last section, you've got dogs deemed potentially dangerous, which is the lowest level. which is 1 for the total city of Wichita. And then if you flip over to page 2, it's gonna be dogs. Dogs deemed dangerous by district, and the total for the city, and this is any dogs deemed dangerous for all of the levels, is gonna be 18 total for the city for the month of August. Number of pit bull bites is going to be 37 for the month of August. Pit bull attacks is going to be 28 for the month of August. On page 3, you're going to have pit bulls deemed potentially dangerous, which is going to be 0 for the month of August. Pit bulls deemed dangerous is 13. And then if you go down to the last section, for the month of August, you've got cat bites at 20, other bites and exposures at 29, for our total bites and attacks of all animals at 159. Any questions on that section?
It looks like it's somewhat going up. Not used down.
It was all
around. I said, no, dog rights.
Two.
I mean, I'm looking at overall.
That's what I am. Tax weight district.
So are you seeing an increase in issues right now?
I think that we had an increase in I think that we had an increase in the last year overall.
Last year?
It's hard to go month by month with fluctuations.
Could that be because you're being more reported or?
Yeah, overall maximum that I would be like, I think it has to do with the overall utilization, and I was gonna speculate, but it would just really be just whatever the numbers tell us. Is it proposing? Okay.
It kind of looks like when there's nicer weather,
Oh,
it goes up.
everything
Dogs are out.
in animal welfare goes up, just because the animals are out and about, people are out and about. You're going to, people bring the animals to events, they're out in the yards, so they get out, everything is gonna go from loose animals to attacks during, spring, summer, and fall. Okay, next page, we're gonna be on reviewing our overall statistics for intake, euthanasia, and return to owner. For dogs, for the month of August, we had 487 dogs come into the shelter. We had 96 euthanasias, we had 121 return to owners. You can see the different reasons broken out. Like I need to explain those. If you have any questions, just let me know. We'll do dogs and cats combined, which is the next page. Total intake for dogs and cats combined for the month of August is 940 animals, 216 euthanasias, and 130 return to owners. Again, the different euthanasia types are broken down on the next section. And then we're going to go to the next page. This repeats dogs again. They just to have it on that page. Like we said, we can reformat this. And then we're going to do cats by themselves, which is 454 cats admitted to the shelter. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. This is adjusted page, my apologies. So again, if you go back to the euthanasia types, we have, like we explained last month, the different categories are based off of what it is the shelter feels they can control, versus things that they feel are out of their control. And that's what their beings, what percentage we go off of, of what we can do. And so dogs adjusted euthanasia was 44, and cats adjusted euthanasia was 30. And then if you go to the next page, 4 of 6, that's where cats are by themselves. And so you got 454 total cats brought into the shelter in August, 120 euthanasias, and only 9 return to owners. But it's up sometimes. And then we have the different euthanasia types by our different euthanasia types for cats for the month of August. And then if you go to page 5 of 6, we're going to have cats and dogs again. Same information. And then on the very last page is dogs and cats combined, which is adjusted, which has 44 users and 941 total. It's not, like I said, I think that we should work on reformatting this just because it's all of the data all at once, and I think that it could be a little bit simpler for you guys.
You have a little bit of that.
I think that we could rework the information that's presented to the board, just as you guys think that might be a little bit about what order you want the information in, what data is important to you to know, how much you want me to verbally present versus what you want in writing.
One of the things that I think is important is to be able to compare it from the year before.
Okay.
If you can do a comparison to the year before, I think that'd be great. See where we're going, we're going now, we're saying either we come down.
Okay.
So we could just do that.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I would like.
On the,
Okay.
the cat, I know, the cat euthanasias,
The ones that are broken out.
yeah.
Or it's six.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The medical KDA and the mercy, what's the highest, are quite a few of those like neonatal cats who don't have mothers?
Yes, a lot of those are, and the medical, KDA and the mercies can be, very similar. They can be a little bit confusing, at the time, just because if a mercy is going to be something, basically they're a veterinarian, or supervisors start deem, and needs to be mercy euthanasias for its health and well-being. Versus a medical KDA is just under the current KDA regulations, that it can't transfer to another shelter or a rescue and has to have a transfer to a veterinarian. But for example, if a kitten without a mother comes in, which would probably be only, that animal needs to serve a legal strictly. And, it also needs care constantly because it has to feed every 2 hours and other needs. And well, we don't have the capacity to do that. So essentially because of that regulation there, they have to be nice to avoid pain and suffering.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah. The microphone makes me talk softer. What's wrong with you guys? So soft?
Sit down and yell.
I just, yes. But mercy, for example, is if a kitten is, under a certain weight and say it has, URI, some of those, depending upon the weight, we will consider a mercy euthanasia instead. But that's because the kitten's viability and ability to survive is so low, we don't want it to pass. Is that? Okay. Oh, yes. Are we all ready to move on to the next section for field responses? Okay, last page, August. Overall field response rates was 95.1%.
Would you define for me what a field response looks like?
Hey, Derek. Will you help me with this one, just since, I haven't explained this one before?
Field response.
Mhm.
So, typically, if somebody calls 911 or they call our dispatch, they'll get put through to, our dispatch in one way, shape or form. Then we send an officer that's in the field out to that call, depending on the priority of the call, depends on how on how they're responded to. So priority 1 calls or calls where there's imminent threat to injury to a human being, those are answered first. Then things like neglect calls and so on down the line to the point where they're at the bottom, like barking dog complaints where it's just a nuisance.
Can I ask a question?
Hey, Alex, it's Pat.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, just, it's okay, we're almost ready.
Okay, no problem.
Does that include calls, you said calls to 911, does that include calls to the shelter?
Yes, so if you call 911, they're gonna forward you to the shelter. If you call the shelter, you're talking directly to
Okay,
us.
that's good. Thank you. Any-
Could the increased, field response rate, from almost 12%, it is 12.1% from July. Could that be because you guys are getting up to your manning levels, so you get out more to get this, whatever, the dog bite or attack or whatever?
I would say that it could be, but that might be more presumptive. I would say that it's probably more likely due to the type of calls and the number of calls that we receive, just because June and July, we received so many calls that it's difficult to keep up with the number of calls, and September you start to see a little bit of a difference in August and September.
It's like you said, it's more nuanced than that because it's called type and staffing. So let's say I've got 15 barking dog complaints and I'm sending mailers out. If I've got the staff to sit down, they can close 15 complaints, sending 15 mailers. And so the calls are being responded to, but it's because the call type is necessary.
Thank you.
You just brought up something I'd like to add. Can you add to that the number of calls you're getting each month so we can see how that goes? I think, can you get those pretty decent?
Yes, Derek and I were just looking at this, and we were receiving on average about 1,000 calls per month.
But if you could sort of, if you can keep track of, I don't know if you can keep track of.
It's automatically organized.
I think that would be looking for some and how many calls you're getting. And then there's.
Oh, add that to the report.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else? With this guy?
I have done, talking about animal.
Okay, then we need to kind of speak up, so. Speak over the reports.
The staffing, and I've had conversations with Emily, Derek on this, and so I did some research. Mainly because, we really are understaffed. We have a capacity for what? But you're still understaffed. And I think everybody knows that. And the budget process will start in January, so I just want to throw some stuff out and have you get sort of verified
Okay.
that I can. And, then I think maybe next meeting that we should, talk about it and maybe with a recommendation. For the like. So anyway, okay, your staffing level comes in two types, correct? If you have the type for the animal control and you have the for animal shelter. Is that correct?
Right, I think that you mean like field services and then the shelter needed
Yes.
or the staffing in the shelter.
Right, in the shelter is the caring for the animals in the shelter and then providing the public hours.
Right.
And then on the second part, you have the animal officers in the field. I know that a lot of times. You might get full staff, but you still are taking into consideration sick days, vacations. And so you don't always have people in the. Out in the field because they're in the shelter, is that correct?
I would definitely say that that's a challenge for us is, just navigating the balance based off of sick days, holidays, months with holidays and more are always difficult for us just because, we are 365 days a week coverage. We can't close the shelter because the animals need services. We can't stop field services because dog bites and attacks and things like that happen all the time. And so those go on constantly, but we still do have to navigate allowing people to have, vacation, or like this month was, what holiday am I missing? This is September.
You know, like,
Thank you. And so we will, so that cuts down on the number of staff that are available, and so we try to balance the number of people that we, have in the shelter.
well, then you have some on call at night also.
Well, all of the staff that have to, they have, all the staff have to take turns being on call
Right.
overnight.
But that's not like a separate group, that's
The same number.
still pulling from
From our
the
regular.
daytime shift.
Yeah.
Right.
I did a little research on the sheltermedicine.com library. Our shelter has an average of 250 animals in shelter. That's 50 hours per day. Let me back up a little bit. This is for.
Did you? You can't be for us or,
Okay, so the national, and in case it came out with the same thing, the documented recommendation for the minimum time to keep the kennel clean and the animal fed is 15 minutes per day.
that's good.
Okay, it's based on that,
You're right.
based on that, you know, an average of 250 animals,
I think I'm gonna have to borrow a phone and call you back.
that's 50 hours per day, or
Give me just a minute, I'll
6.25
call you back.
people in an 8-hour shift every day. And that's to only clean and feed.
Yes, I
Okay.
would guess, I need to double check that now, but I'm sure it sounds right.
Okay. I think it is.
Okay, I'm sure your math is accurate.
Well, yeah. But, okay, so then, but cleaning the other areas, like in the front, and the rear, all the other rooms, that's in addition.
Well, and so I think what you're referencing is the capacity for care model.
It is.
Right, and that is the national standard. Jared has been working previous to me to try to make sure that that's what we're following. And so that would be accurate, and that's.
There are some very good, because I Googled it, and there are some very good resources.
Yes.
Different ones, and they all pretty much were identical in the.
It's what's nationwide. And so that is true. It's gonna be 15 minutes per animal that you have, just to feed and clean. That's basic, nothing else that you would do with it at that time.
So to clean everything, we're talking about 12 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the number though?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Which brings the total to that you need 7.75 people per day. Do you have that in?
for like,
Well,
just for cleaning.
well, for the taking care of the animals, or cleaning and feeding, and then cleaning, or taking care of the rest of the shelter.
Right, because we do have to do other things beyond that.
Because you have laundry, you have, and that's related to the.
I would say I don't have that many dedicated shelter staff.
Okay, so you need, okay, so we need. Okay, the public service hours in the front lobbies from 11 to 6:30. So, and you have to have 3 animal control officers at the front between the 2 desks.
Right,
You have an
we
intake.
have an intake person and then 2 other individuals that handle other types of visitation for compliance, trying to rate it down. And sort of observation.
And some of this I asked you, the control officers work 2 shifts, 7 to 3, and then 2 to 10.
That is correct.
So. So that, so based on all of that, it requires about an inclusive people a day. Correctly? You think that's not?
To do, that is correct. So the way
To
to
cover,
the way that we're currently in operations is we have 4 kennel techs, which help with cleaning. But that isn't enough to do it. So we have to keep animal control officers in from the field. And then the animal control officers that man the front desk also come in at 7 to clean. And so it's basically all hands on deck from 7 AM to 11 AM to try to get most of the areas clean for the public. To come in, and then the kennel techs will try to keep up with whatever they're able to. After we open to the public, when the the other ACOs need to go up front to help staff. And then depending upon how many staff we actually have available that day, we might have an officer or 2 in the field.
because you never have more than 2. Do you sometimes have 3?
I mean, on a really great day.
And that's covering the entire city. And how many calls can they average?
That really depends on the call type. So,
Like an animal bite, I'm assuming is when you say.
well, in just general investigation time, so if you were bit by an animal and we received that phone call, maybe you're in the hospital, and so, our first line of attack would be to, get the dog. And so if the dog is still really large, or if it's not contained, or something like that, that's our first priority. Second priority is to visit with the victim, to take evidence, pictures, statements, all of that kind of stuff, and then we have to go to the potential owner's house or try to find the owner to complete the investigation that way. But all of that can take, it typically doesn't take any less than 2 hours. But it can take around 6 to 8 hours and sometimes into the next day, depending on the report requirements. But if it's a nuisance call, we can get that done in probably 45 minutes. With drive time.
There's stuff. Maybe you want to jump.
Yes, it's jump, so she would see that,
Oh, where she's supposed to.
and it's just.
Okay, we're gonna
You want
We're gonna
to come
jump,
back
Yeah.
in?
but well, because we have two help calling in.
Okay.
So,
This is something I should step back over.
Jason.
Okay, you know what? What a great day.
Yeah, you're right on there, okay, I mean, Pat, are you there also?
Yes,
I am, but, okay, you're okay. Yeah, just wait.
that's fine.
Oh,
So hang on just a second, I'm gonna put you on speaker, so it's for free to
oh,
hang on by John.
okay, we're gonna, because we got two of our members on, speakerphone, we're calling in, and one of them has got a time limit, because she's in another meeting, we're gonna continue this later, Tony, we got later on in the meeting, okay? All right, so the one thing, we're gonna go to the agenda. The first thing on the agenda is the Wichita Animal Services Advisory Board ordinance, and, I've handed out, and so did, there. Let's see, yeah.
You're going to-
Okay, yeah. Now, do you want to carry on talking about it?
I can, yeah, I will come over here on the, I have a mic.
Okay, you got a mic over
Okay,
there.
we have two.
Yeah. No, just one. This is the same thing. Yeah, that, well, yeah, it's the same thing.
I like
That,
it.
Somewhere, it's fine, but. it's
Okay,
somewhere
I'm still fine.
okay. This is an ordinance that's coming to us from, the law department, and Jim John is gonna talk to us about it.
All right, hello?
Yeah.
Okay, good to get a little close. Okay, I'm Jan Jarman from the law department. We have an ordinance just to clean up some of just the creation of the advisory board. We're not sure this will be presented yet. The city manager's office wanted to know what you all think, so they wanted you to discuss, take a vote. And then after that vote's taken, I will go back to the city manager's office and we'll determine if it's going to go for city council. So the changes are pretty simple. We're trying to remove, we really call it animal services now, not animal control. So it just cleans up as many of the control, the services as I can. It got kind of convoluted on how many people are on this board. All of the other boards are much simpler. There's 7 people appointed, each council member and the mayor get to appoint one with no real stipulations as to who. When they created this board, they made goals that there should be a rescue, and I think there's also now the goal that there should be a vet. And that is sometimes hard to fill. I think it could always still be the goal of your council person. But this ordinance would just simplify it to read like all of the rest of the boards. That there will be 7 at-large members with 1 appointed by city council and the mayor. It removes all the goal language to where they're just appointing 7 people. And it says all 7 members of the board will be voting members unless a conflict is stated. So right now, the way your bylaws read, I honestly don't remember how or why it got that way, but the president doesn't vote. But this, and we can, yeah, I don't, whatever you all want to do, but this just takes it to where it's 7 members. It's an uneven number, which is convenient, and everybody votes. So that is how it's written now. You all discuss and we'll get input from anybody else, and I'll tell the manager what was said, and then we'll go from there.
I don't have an issue with them. I know that, we try to have a veterinarian on the board, we do, and regarding the press, we do, but that has, been a difficult situation for us. And, I think that, sometimes we can't get a veterinarian who's able to sit on the board. That's been a big difference. And thank you for Jason for coming and sitting on the board. And, so, I don't have any questions with these, and I don't mind not having a good one.
We can always, if there's something that we really want to vet, a feeling or something, we can always. ask one. Even, because I took my dog to the vet a month or so ago, and my vet said, if he's ever needed anything, I said, we actually have a vet on, and Jason, I told her before, she likes you. Things are good, so, that is. And so I think we would probably, I'm more concerned with the vet and work with rescues a lot. I'm sure they do therapy, but I think as long as we're good, I have no problem with it as long as. And, we would have the authority to get things and get things.
Yeah. I just believe that the focus of an animal advisory board is that you should try to have a rescue and you should try to have a veterinarian. Now, if you locked in where you have to have one of each, that's gonna be a problem. But I don't see any problem with having a goal. So when people look at this, they say, oh, well, they're animal board. They want to have a goal of having a rescue and a veterinarian. Those are noble things. So I don't know what the big deal about taking that out. I think on an animal board, it's a natural.
That would be my question as well. What is the benefit to taking it out? What is the harm? Maybe the other way, what's the harm to leaving it in?
Currently, they only have the goal of a rescue. The other was a guarantee on the vet. This would make the guarantee of the vet a goal. But of course, we want a vet. I even went to spoke in front of city council and said, look, if you can replace me with a vet, if all 7 were vets, then that would be a good thing, but not really. You need someone from the different aspects, but vets are definitely needed on this board. And thank you, Jason.
Any other,
You're welcome. I'm happy to serve.
any other comments? And you, Patricia or Jason, do you have anything to say about that?
I'm in agreement with you guys.
And,
No, I will. But,
No, I'm just in agreement. I think if we can have it, that's right, but it's not always 100% available, so. And Jason, thank you for stepping in and taking that decision.
didn't realize how important it was.
what's your thoughts, Jason?
So I think we are talking about it, both the veterinarians have a particular perspective on that because we deal with it pretty much most every waking hour of our work day. So it's something on our minds a lot and our perspective, I believe, to add to the discussion to the policies.
Okay. Well, do I have a motion?
One thought, and then you need to open it to public.
Okay,
too.
yes.
But one thought is, if you keep the 7 members as all of the other boards, and we go back to the normal 7, who chooses the vet if it has to be mandatory?
It's not mandatory, it's a goal.
So you want to
Just
change
goal.
it to, George, you agree, you want to change it to
Yeah.
a. Does it
Yeah.
instead of mandatory?
And like right now, Jason's, you're with District 5, aren't you? So does it matter?
No, I think if it's kept a goal, I think it's fine.
Yeah, and-
If you make it mandatory, it becomes a
No.
goal.
No, and I think any council member could nominate for,
Okay, got it.
I don't have a problem.
Is there any more discussion from the board? Okay, just any discussion from the staff?
My understanding of rescue is you get save an animal from danger. The vet, when I would call about a neglected animal, I would get the runaround of not having them come out and get the neglected animal. With the vet, my understanding of the vet besides medical care, would the vet be able to determine an animal that's been neglected?
That's a separate position, okay? He's just here to advise the city, to advise the police department, from what I understand, to advise the police department. The animal shelter has their own veterinarian that takes care of that, okay? Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Well, I make a motion that we, adopt what Jan has presented.
For a second,
I'll second.
all those in favor, raise your hand and speak up, guys. Aye. Okay, motion pass.
16.
Now 6-0. Okay, the next thing that we're gonna talk about is the bylaws, and, Susan, you wrote, you handed out what Susan took the bylaws and put them in a sort of an orderly form, it's a paragraph then. And they don't have. Juice. This. I sent out to the board the proposed changes or amendments to the bylaws per the regulations stated on the bylaws. That's where you guys got it 10 days ahead so that you would know about it. And so I think what I'll do is read through the amendments, because I know you guys don't have those, I'm sure, Jason and Pat. I'm just going to read through some of the changes that we've done. There's no changes to the creation. There's no changes to the purpose. The membership and terms will have, if you know, we're leaving that alone because of the ordinance change, because that's sort of picked up from the ordinance. So if that passes, then that would be replacing the first paragraph of the membership and terms. The first amendment that I sort of skipped over was that under membership and terms, it says the members shall serve a term of 1 year. And at this time, our term is 2 years. So that should be changed to 2 years. Okay, the second one would be under, and I don't have this with, okay. So I'm going to try to put this with the one, I'm sorry, I was going to have these run off, but my computer, my printer died, and so I was going to have both of them so that you compare them with it. The second one is down here. It is under the meetings and procedures. Meetings and procedures, we don't meet just once a month, we meet bi-monthly. So we need to change once a month to bi-monthly. And then on the policy for having people come to speak on the public speaking, there was a suggestion that we amend that to say possibly change total limit public comment to 25 minutes total. I think that's what the city council has. And sometimes we may have more. I guess we could change that if it looks like we have a big thing, but someone had said that they would like to have that put in. So that's something to think about. And then we go down to quorum and voting. With the change of the ordinance, we're going to have an easier time of getting the quorum because we just have to have 4 instead of 5. Because we have an empty seat right now. And it also goes down, I think the only thing we changed on that one was all voting should be done with a raise of hands or aye if you're on the phone. And then the number 6 on the agenda in order of businesses. It says here that it's supposed to be for the secretary, so that would be Keely. And I think Keely is pretty busy. It has always been done by the chairperson. And so we changed by the chairperson to get the agenda put together by contacting everybody and then sending it to Keely to print off. Is there any questions on that? That's how it's always been done. Okay,
So it's instead of ex officio secretary, we're saying chair.
by the chairperson, yes. Oh, you're doing good. Education. And then I wanted to put in there, it's made available to the public a time period, so it should be made available to something. I think that's what we talked about, 5 days prior to the meeting. I think that's Friday. We try to have it out by Friday. And it's when it's always been done. Officers and staffing. It says a new chairperson will be elected in August. We don't meet in August, so we need to decide whether it should be July or September. One of those two things. And let's see. We don't need to, we can take out addition the chair shall serve as a deciding vote in the event of a tie. That needs to be changed. It would be changed with the ordinance change.
What if we want to make even number show?
Well,
Because right now we only have 16.
that's okay. I think that if it's a tie.
No, I don't know if it's not on the
Yeah,
line.
if it's a tie, it's a tie.
Okay.
Because that can always happen, that can always happen. Okay, and then the next would be, let's see. I think the next thing is, there's not that many changes, would be the bylaws, should be, it says shall be mailed, and it's put emailed out to everybody by the copy. That's where I had to follow that. Because of the copy of the proposed amendments of these bylaws should be mailed or emailed by the secretary, when I went ahead and did that, to each member of the board at least 10 days prior to the date. And that way we're legal with being able to change the bylaws. So everyone will have a chance to know that. Are there any questions?
Jan, who's gonna update these? You or us, or who puts it in the final format?
I don't know.
Well, what I was saying is, you went through here with all these animal controls to services. You got some, like, there's about 25 to 30 in here that would need to be.
Oh, yeah. I think
Split up.
Susan's doing that right now.
I'm trying to. do that.
Well, and we'll slow it down a little bit. And is that going to be okay?
Just,
Okay.
review.
And should we wait on this and maybe vote on these bylaws at the next meeting, and which I've got two people on here, or should we go ahead?
I do have some things to tell you about the ordinance, but yes, I think you need to wait to see if the ordinance goes and passes.
Okay,
Otherwise, you're gonna have to come back and do it again.
okay,
So, you want me to
yes,
share my,
yes, and I think Jan's got some more questions.
all right. First of all, I think you all have to meet once a month. A regular schedule of meetings, this is an ordinance I'm reading from. A regular schedule of meetings shall be established by each board or commission with the appropriate notice to the public and with a minimum schedule providing for meetings to be held not less than once each month and more often as workload requires, and appropriate provisions that meetings may be called by your principal officer and the majority of the member. We kind of knew that when we moved these to quarterly. I mean, I mentioned it, but we probably need to follow our bylaw cannot be different than the ordinance.
Okay,
So
I
we
didn't realize
have
that until
something.
now.
So that's number one.
Oh, goody, Zach.
I know. It's the law. All right.
We've been breaking the law
Yeah,
as long as I've been on this board. Oh,
Also, just an interesting topic is, I want to read to you what it says about public participation. And there's no definition. So I was looking on my phone just a second ago to see if there's a definition section, and there isn't. But public participation, it is the policy of the city to allow public participation on items coming before each board and commission in open meeting. Following the presentation of each item on the agenda, the matter shall be open for discussion from the floor members of the public. Each public member shall be subject to limitation of 5 minutes for each presentation unless extended by a vote of the majority of the board. The presiding officer shall have the discretion to reasonably limit the public comment. And then it goes on to say the section about, if it's duplicitous, et cetera. So, and then it says, any members of the public shall be, well, we'll talk about that in a second. So the first thing is, what's an item?
Is that the agenda item?
Yeah, I mean, and yes. So
Because I mean,
it doesn't say what item means. I know you look at me like, well, what is it? You're a lawyer. I don't know.
we're kind of looking at the city council meeting and watching them. You have your 25.
It's new business.
Public, and it's new business.
New business. So, I think it's fair for you all to decide that an item is new business. So that's what I wanted to throw out there for you guys to decide, is an item new business, or is an item when Emily tells you, gives you a report, is a reported item?
I think it's new business. That's
This,
what I.
this I think is probably new business.
Yeah, I would say new
New
business.
business.
So we might want to put that in the, section on meetings and procedure, that when we talk about public speaking, that an item is new business.
I can tell that you're gonna have to do some of this at home, I think. Susan?
Is there a workaround on that every month thing? I mean,
The way that ordinance is written.
How do we get away
The
with?
only way you get out of that is if you don't have quorum.
Then we'll get in trouble, people will yell.
Yeah.
I knows we have comment, but we'll wait till, we'll get these done and then we'll have to open this for comment.
Back into my meeting.
Okay,
But we're not.
You're not gonna.
probably not gonna, okay, yeah, okay, go ahead, and I appreciate you being on, okay, thank you, Pat, okay.
Another,
And
Good
Jason,
night.
good night, have a good day,
bye-bye.
and Jason, you can stay on if you like to. Are you
another
there?
part,
Yep, I'm
Okay,
here.
thank you, okay.
another part of the ordinance going on in that same section. Any members, so we decided an item is new business. I think that is consistent with city council, and that's fine. And this kind of addresses what you said about the person or public comment. But just so you all know, any members of the public shall be allowed to submit items for the agenda, except for items pertaining to personnel, litigation, and other matters that are subject to executive session. Matters of public desired so to present matters to the board or commission shall submit a request in writing stating that the name of the individual desired to be heard, and the matter to be presented, which will be submitted in the time and manner provided by you all. So I think that you can do that by having the initial comment time.
Is that in the public comment?
Yeah.
I think that would be
Okay.
the public comment.
Oh, yes, I
But
agree.
sometimes I
Because
think
we,
you've had, public contact you in the past and say, I want to talk about this. I think it's appropriate to say, you get the 5 minutes, to do it in the public. If it's something more, detailed, the ordinance does give you the ability to make it into an item, if you all want it to be an item, and it would give them more time to present. That would all be done ahead of time, I would assume, so it would be on the agenda.
what did you recommend the deadline for them to submit their request so that we can decide, is it just a public agenda or is it legally like? I can't remember what the council, is that 10 to?
You want it before your agenda comes out.
Right.
So if your agenda comes out Friday, it'd be nice to do it Monday. You all have 2/3 of a vote. That seems difficult. If the point is to let the public come, talk about, something, I'm not sure. Majority would be a lot easier than figuring out 2/3 on the sudden.
Yeah.
We just do majority. So consider that. Those are things we might, I think you're fine with your public comment, and then a more detailed plan that someone has to offer. Maybe you would entertain that as an agenda item.
Because I know one of the things that I had brought up was that if they sign up here, they have to be here. Somebody else can't sign up for them, because that has happened in the past. The person really did not have I don't think they knew they were going to speak. And then they had no idea what they were going to talk about. And so for 5 minutes, they just kind of went from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I like the idea that we need to know ahead of time and what the item is.
Yeah. Now, I want to clarify this. Right now, we have, when people come in and they want to speak on the public agenda, they can sign up here. Are you saying that everyone has to sign a written flyer or whatever? Okay.
I
Just
think
if they want to
it's
make
fine.
it an item.
If they had a detailed plan they wanted to present,
Okay.
I think they would contact a member who would then try to vote to get, you would get 7. Of course, you can't vote unless it's an open meeting. So you can't do it ahead of time on Monday, as I'm talking this out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't do any good to have them present it to you on Monday and say, can I make this an agenda item? You probably, but since your meetings have to become monthly, if they had a detailed plan they wanted to present, you should probably vote on it at like this meeting, and they would present it at the following.
That's a good idea.
But do you think But what do you think about they have to be here? Can we put that in somewhere?
I mean, they have to be.
They have to be here to sign up. Somebody else cannot sign up for that.
No, but, right, but they can sign up day up, right?
Right,
So
yes.
anybody can walk in. and sign up.
Yes. But they come in 10 minutes later and they're on the list.
We had,
had that
we
issue.
had one person sign up for another person because the other person was running late. Is that,
I don't,
is that a
well,
problem?
we don't know. But then that person did not have did not have anything specific to talk about. They just, the lack of a better term, ramble provide.
I think it's reasonable to say that you would sign up for yourself.
I didn't read to.
And can we ask for a topic of what they're gonna talk about?
You can ask,
But I don't have a
you
problem.
can't say no, but you can ask.
But now, and then on the other hand, if somebody knows they're gonna be 10 minutes late, can they email, I don't know, that'd be kind of complicated. To email and say, I want to do public speaking. I'm not gonna do this. That might be a little complicated.
Well, I know that at the city council meeting, sometimes if there's not that many people on there and they've got some time, sometimes I think they'll say, is there anyone else who would have something to speak?
Every
So,
time, that's mayor offers,
Yeah.
they set a certain amount of time aside for public comment.
Yeah, and so if it doesn't go, that's where we were talking about the 25 minutes, I
Right.
think that's what theirs are.
Those are called agenda items.
Right. All right, so those are some things we discussed that. Let's see.
Anything else?
Let me go through my ordinance and see if there's, okay. Now, I think you should put, okay, we've talked about voting versus non-voting, that's good, 2 years, that makes sense. You can do 1 year, but 2 years is fine. On quorum and voting, number 5. I think you might make a number 4 there, and what is considered being present. So we don't have this awkward, can they be on the phone, can they be on the computer? You can determine that they are considered present, and you can decide, do they have to be there for the whole meeting? Do they have to be there for part of the meeting? Is it okay if we set up a Zoom meeting online and they're there? But it'd be nice to address all that now in writing, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel and do it different. That's the concern. So we don't do it different every time we have an item.
I'm trying to think, somewhere I read that you could have a person as long as they were, on the speaker or something like that.
You can,
Okay, so where did was it you that told me about that, or?
yeah,
Okay.
it's loud. They can show
You
you
want us
by
to
the
go on
phone.
this?
I think it needs to go in
Okay,
writing.
it's one file, so-
So we could either do that or we could Zoom whatever fits.
Yeah, and I would do both, probably. If
Yeah.
you're gonna allow it by phone, why wouldn't you, if we had better tech, why wouldn't we would, not, there's anything wrong with your tech, George, do all you have to do. But if we had a Zoom or something, then keep it open to where you could have options if that happened. So that's one thought. Another is,
I still get to see you guys. Yeah. Yay.
second. Yeah, and then I agree, you have to clean up number 7 if that ordinance passes. You might note in subcommittees, you don't have to do this, but you might have a number 2 that subcommittees are also subject to coma. And it's not really part of the bylaw, but it's kind of nice to put in writing some of this stuff. So you can just read it and know what the rules are, and then you don't have to wonder about it. So it's just,
So that means any subcommittee has to be a public meeting.
right.
Yeah, they already are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
We're good at that, but when you all are gone and there's a new crew, I wouldn't have to train them if it was written right here, is my thought.
I think that in the ordinance, it talks about that the subcommittee, but they put it in bylaws. I think it's in the ordinance.
Yeah, it is. Right. I think that, those are my
Well,
comments.
Jan, shouldn't there be something on the officers and staffing that, the city ordinance states that, like if you were on the board for the whole 8 years, you can only be the chairperson for 2 of those 8 and the vice chair for 2 of those 8. Because some boards, well, our board, for example, had a chairperson that was for 7 years or something, 6 or 7 years, and also on the animal board, 6 or 7 years. I believe the city ordinance on it, on all boards, is a maximum of 2 years.
I don't see any problem with putting the rule that's in the ordinance into your bylaws too.
I thought it was, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was 2 years and then you had to sit out to something.
2 years in your age.
But out of 8.
You know, that-
At 8 to beyond.
And
So, yeah, I don't see.
that's in the ordinance.
2 years or 2 terms?
Ah, good
Two
point.
1 year, 2 1 year terms. I
But it's
think.
not-
Yeah.
They're not talking about 1 year term.
So if it's 2 years, it'd be 1.
Well, but you're only elected for 1 year.
Okay, what it says is that our terms are for 2 years and you can only have, I think. I don't think they count terms as being 2 years or 1 year. It says you can only
It's
serve
quarters.
8 years and that would be then, 4 terms. Yeah.
It is your terms, but as far as being chairperson or,
Yeah, okay, so let's wait before we go to chairperson. What it actually says is, this is number 7. Under, no, so number 3A7. Right? Says members may be reappointed by successive terms not to exceed 8 consecutive years, so there's not a problem. We don't have to put how many terms, it says,
Okay, so we've got that, that's already in there.
that's already,
Okay,
do you see it?
yeah,
yeah, okay, but now number 6, members shall serve a term of 1 year, but our terms are 2 years. Where did you come up
I
with
don't-
1 year?
Well, because I think they decided that your term can be 1 year, but the ordinance, I'm looking for where it says it, you can't serve, it's no more than 2 years, so they chose 1 year.
you get so more than
Well, we're not
Can
gonna
be
do
no more than
2.
2 years,
2.
because as it is now, all of our terms, if you look in there, are always 2 years.
Yeah. So is it a problem changing it to 2?
No,
It's
yeah,
just-
I'm gonna find a
it's
spot
just-
in the ordinance.
Okay.
I don't see where the part is about the chairperson limits, but that's not in here, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it's a city ordinance, not.
It's in the city,
not
so
an-
we
No,
may need to
I
add.
think,
The maximum term of all members shall be not more than 2 years. Or until a successor has been duly appointed and qualified. The minimum number of members is 5, so. It can't, so it's 2 years, right now, that's what they're appointing you for, 2 years. And then over here, it says about the 8. No person shall be appointed any board who has served for 8 consecutive years on the same board. Unless 2 years have lapsed since the last service, so you can take a 2-year break for another 8 years.
and then as far as the chairperson, I think what you're talking about was that, and I'm trying to think, is in here somewhere.
Well, it's number 4 of, where we just were.
Okay.
But it doesn't say anything about electing the chairperson. It doesn't say anything about the length of term of the chairperson. You know, change man to person in that item, and so I don't know if that's something we're proposing to put in because it definitely missed.
Is it in our ordinance, Jen? No.
What is it in the ordinance?
The length that a person can serve chair, do you think it is?
Oh, yeah, I know it.
Oh, no.
2 years for is max for your 8 years.
I'll keep looking.
It's in there, trust me.
I have okay,
But I guess when we find it, then we'll put it in.
I could see where that was having a break.
well, I think, no, I don't know. I have no idea with that. We can put it in,
Well,
and we can do a little bit more research with it. What's normal for what's normal?
my thought is
You'll
if
find it.
if
It's
you
there.
have 7 people on the board and all of a sudden you have 40 people. Are you gonna, it would be, I think it would be unfair to them to elect somebody who is just brand new to the board.
It's
and
tough.
has no expen- has no
It's tough.
experience.
We have-
Think about it, the chair would be, put you out at 8, The vice chair would be 2 out of those 8, so that's 4 right there, gone, 4 out of the 8 years.
Unless
The
the vice, unless
vice
the
goes
vice
to
chair,
be the chair.
unless the vice.
All officers to be elected by the members of the board for a maximum term not to exceed 1 year, and for a maximum tenure of office not to exceed 2 consecutive terms.
Consecutive.
That's,
That's-
now that makes, sense. Well, if it's 2 consecutive.
No, yeah.
But it says 1 year in 2 of the 1 year, so not 2 of 2 years, which is 4.
Right.
We had that before where,
So you can only elect 1 year at a time, and you can do it twice.
2 out of 8.
Correct.
okay,
That's only 2, okay.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't make sense.
yeah,
I'm gonna read the whole section,
Okay.
so I'm not cutting it. And the first part's not relevant, but the minimum number of officers of any board or commission shall be not less than 3 officers. To be known as president, well, that's another thing we don't have, to be known as president and 2 vice presidents, notwithstanding any provision of this code to the contrary, and such other officers as such board itself may deem necessary. All officers to be elected by the members of the board for a maximum term of not to exceed 1 year, and for a maximum tenure of office not to exceed 2 consecutive terms. Maybe. I also need to look.
But that doesn't tell you that you can only serve twice. That just says, I mean, you can serve
Yes,
every
yes.
other year.
Area, right. You're right.
You just, yeah, so you could be more, you could be chair or chair in year 2, and chair in year 5.
We did that earlier with Stephanie. Okay, she'd been here for a long time and they said we needed to check to elect another chairperson, and then we elected Vanessa. And then after that, Stephanie went back on as chairperson. So, I think.
Okay, this is interesting. Now I'm looking, so most boards are all governed by chapter 2. With the animal board, we have chapter 6 as well. So when those 2 conflict, chapter 6 is the most relevant because it's our specific board. And there's only a couple differences, but one is, and this is how we did it, I've forgotten we did this. In 2015, we changed the law that the animal board meets at least quarterly. So that's how we did it. We actually changed that ordinance. So you can do quarterly meetings. Sorry, I forgot we did that.
So we're back to every other month.
Yeah, you're back to every other month if you want to do that. And then it does not speak to electing, let's see, the composition shall consist of 7 at large. In addition, well, we know this because I just did this ordinance. Appointed members. The board shall elect its own chairman and make such rules as necessary for the conduct of its business, subject to 2.12.30. So you are back to the rule of you're elected 1 term, 2 consecutive, take a break, and then you get elected again. Everyone can serve a max of 8. So that's the number.
What about the terminology of chairperson and president, vice president?
Chair. Just chair.
Chair, I think that's
And vice president.
What about vice president, presidents?
Yeah,
good.
it's weird on a board so small, 7, that you have to, everybody's gonna be an officer basically, but. I mean, the ordinance says that you elect a vice and a.
But is that in chapter 2 or is that in or
It's
2 and
chapter
6? So if we have something different in 6,
We don't.
Not to
6
address
is
that.
really small.
I think what that we were doing is we were electing an unofficial secretary, even though that we already had in the ordinance, it says that the police department provides that, the secretary.
because all we have right now is
Mother-
a chair and vice chair.
Yeah, and we used to have a secretary, but then the secretary did not do anything. Because we had the an official secretary, I guess, from the,
Yeah, this is 3 shall not be less than 3 officers.
okay.
Vice president,
We'll do
2 vice
vice
presidents.
presidents. We can do a treasurer, we can all just put in a penny or something. All right, anything else, Janet? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. Is there any questions from the board on this? Jason, did you have any questions? No?
No.
I will probably need some help to record all of what we've said, or
Can, that's,
how will this? Yeah, so do I need to ask now? Then I ask you, I see you have notes. Do you want to hand me your notes?
well, I think what we should do is to, open this up to comment from the gallery. And then come back and then we'll go a little bit over it and see what we think right now. Or do you wanna just sort of redo it for your benefit?
Well, what I'm trying to do is record what we're proposing, so that we can see the difference. And so I'm just not sure if I got that all.
Do you want to,
No,
so this is what I would say. Let's put out what you have, and then I think it's gonna take another board meeting to make the voting, so we don't have to worry about that, okay? And then maybe you can get with, Jan, and Jan, can you get with Susan and work on that?
because don't we have to have it 10 days before the next meeting?
And then you can send out 10 days for these meetings. Okay, is there anyone that wants to speak from the gallery? Any comment? Yes?
Thank you, Jan, for clarifying on 6, because I wondered what happens when 2 conflicts with 6, which one wins. So that helps. And then for Susan, to make it easier, and I can email this to her if she wants to, the city council's version of things is public comment is limited to 25 minutes, shall be subject to a limitation of 5 per speaker. Non-scheduled speakers may be allowed to speak if the 25-minute limit has not been reached. So if 4 people show up and they speak and not, a 5th one hasn't signed up, then you can say, does anybody else want to comment?
And we have to vote on whether we want to
Do that.
do that or not, okay? So
That's at least what the city council does.
Yeah, I understand.
If I chill out.
I think that we can, also, I've read that you can limit the number of public speakers if you have a very long agenda where it's gonna go past your hour. So I think that's.
If you've got 100
I-
people in the line, you can limit it to 1 minute per speaker. That's-
Yeah, and we should drop it down a minute, but the other thing that we can do is if they are coming up and speaking the same thing that someone else has said, a duplicate, then we can ask that, because anyone want to speak that is not, and that's on agenda items, that's not the public speaker, on agenda items. So, but we're talking about public speaker, I'm sorry.
I think you can do that on public speaking as well.
No, I think public speaking, if
they have the same.
if they want to talk and they want just have an unlimited amount of time to talk, yes, we can do that on the public speaking too. I think we're correct,
I
Jan.
mean, you could put in your bylaws a limitation, of how many minutes you're gonna dedicate from the 2-hour meeting to
Okay.
your first public speakers. I mean, at first, when you said 25 minutes, I thought, oh, that's a long time, but 4 speakers,
Yeah.
it is
It'll only
actually
be 5.
reasonable, yeah.
I think I just saying, as someone that does public speaking and as public speak at city council. And where this is the only place we get to say our say. Those 5 minutes are, I mean, that's not very long, 5 minutes. You have to talk really fast and have it prepared. And it's very important for us to be able to say that, have that 5 minutes to say what we want to say, because that's what this meeting is for, is for the community to come and be able to say, to have our opinion. It's a community board, and so I think what you're saying is fine, but I just don't get so caught up on what everybody's saying or talking about, like, for me to come, I have no idea whatever anybody else is coming to say. Or anything that I prepare what I'm coming to say, and those 5 minutes are just very,
I
are
think,
very precious too.
I
Be a
understand,
community member.
I understand, but I think that, if we have a no time limit.
I understand the time,
Then,
I get
then
that.
we just don't have people coming up saying the same thing over and over again, okay?
I just get that, I get the time limit, I'm just saying, like, the 5 minutes, and like, I don't know what anybody else is gonna say, so. So if somebody comes up and talks about what I already had planned, I might cover a little bit more of what somebody else said, but those 5 minutes are just precious.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I move that, we just continue, well, I can't talk, but we're gonna just continue this at the next meeting. We don't have to have a vote on it.
Continue.
Huh?
We're gonna discontinue now, but not.
we're gonna continue, we're gonna discuss this at the next meeting. And we can take a vote on that because we do have a quorum. Jason? I move that we, have this brought back at our next meeting and do some finalization then, and then vote on it then.
I'll second.
You're gonna second it too? Okay, second, all those in favor, raise your hand.
Fine.
And Vice Water. Okay, so I think that's it for the bylaws. And, the next thing up on the agenda is feral cats. Nancy,
Can we go back to,
let's get through the, well, I don't know. Let's get through the agenda first and then go with the report. Because we have people here that want to talk about this.
Okay, since I have been a member of this board, the number one complaint, number one concern, whether it's email, at a meeting, somebody would come up to me, or they'll bring it up, is basically, most of them have trouble with the feral cats and destruction of property. There are laws. There's a nuisance, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a nuisance and but something needs, and nobody wants to talk about it, but something needs to be done. Whether it's a community gets together and decide, because there are so many factions. And I think people need to set aside their personal differences and get together and figure out how to fix the problem as a community, because it's like. But, well, two people that, were not able to be here tonight. One of them have a next door neighbor that has several cats. They have destroyed his deck furniture and have scratched up his car. Another guy that talked, to me after the Delano neighborhood meeting last night, says there's like 20 some cats in a 2-block area. And, the first person that was feeding him is gone, the second person that was feeding him is gone, and then someone not even in their neighborhood came to feed them. And he said he can't even sit on his front porch in the chair without getting fleas. And so there's a lot of issues. And so I don't know the answer. But I think it needs to be addressed.
Jan and I are looking at that.
I know, well, you knew. But, I mean, what do you do, Jan? I mean, there's laws, the police department doesn't have time. The shelter doesn't have enough employees to go through and. So,
Jan,
you know.
No, I don't, it just, I think you can talk about it as a community again, it just got really out of hand. So I still have.
Oh, I don't want it to get out of hand. I think.
Lingering
Oh, I know, it's here, like you bring up feral cats and,
now.
you know.
No, but it was very, if you.
And it shouldn't be contentious, they're a problem. So, okay, the ones that don't wanna do anything, then pop up the money to pay for the damages. I don't know, but if we do, I know there's a couple of people that wanna speak. Emily, do you have any, or Derek, have any? You've been around Derek for a long time, Emily, you've dealt with him before.
Cats,
Feral cats.
these cats, there's. The crux of the issue is, there's programs that have been tried, I've read tons of them. And, to make a meaningful impact, would take a hybrid model or something completely different than what's been tried at other places. The problem we have is that, to try some of these things, like a modified TNR or something like that, we'd have to get around state statute and city ordinances for, abandoning the animals and making sure we're taking care of them, making sure we're not leaving them to run bias. So, your hands are kind of limited in it, it's kind of tied a bit.
Even, and I don't even know if there's a reporting. I mean, we report dogs barking, do we report? Your neighbor has 20 cats and they're only supposed to.
Yes, they do.
You know,
Would be unfortunate.
and I mean, maybe it's just educating. because I think it's been a few years since it was brought up before.
Yes.
And. You know, and maybe a letter is sent, I don't know, like a nuisance letter or. You know, I mean, I had a neighbor that had 20 cats. She lived, it was a fourplex. She had an apartment she lives in. She had 20 cats in the neighborhood.
It
Thank
is
God she
illegal.
moved and took them all with her.
I mean, but no changes, it is currently illegal, but as you know, we don't have enough to house feral cats. It's illegal to have over a certain number of cats. We just changed that number recently.
To 3.
3. So even if they're outside, if you're feeding them, the law is, this is gonna cause a ruckus. But if you're feeding them, they're your cats.
That is,
You're harboring, that's just the law, whether folks like it or
yeah,
not.
I
the law
don't
is-
keep or harbor a cat over the age of 5 months. There's.
Yeah. But we just
And I don't know.
don't
I
have the
don't-
personnel
I know.
to really effectively enforce. But
And I
if there was a
totally-
problem, if it's causing damage, I would encourage a person to report it. And it's not that we won't do anything, it's just, it's a case by case basis.
Mhm.
And it would have to be more than a mere nuisance of, I see a cat and I don't like that.
I never had anybody,
damage.
and a lot of, the majority of the people that have complained to me, they're like, I like cats. But I don't want 10 living next door and destroying
And then you're.
yeah.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, do you agree?
No, and I would agree that and it's just, it is a staffing and priorities level, so we look at dangerous dogs, and cats are a lot more elusive than dogs, than some dogs. So,
And there aren't any route they can run freely. There's no,
right, and we do typically rent out traps, we just had to buy a whole new set because all the rented ones never came back.
well, I know, and that, cause I came to get one for
Yeah.
somebody, and I ended up
So we
buying a set of traps and taking them to her.
Yeah, and we can. The difficulty with us trapping them, just logistically speaking, is that they have to go back out and be checked. And we have to know that we're gonna have enough staffing available to go back and check the traps. That if there's 4 dog bites or and neglect or an injured animal or a million priority 1 calls. It's just a matter of resources, so it's not that we do anything about it, just sometimes it can be.
With the person having the issue, are they allowed to trap them and bring them to you?
Yes.
Just so, I was pretty sure that was it, but.
I agree with you, in a situation where I know that people have problems with people that have too many cats. And given everything being perfect, the laws that we have now for nuisances should be able to take care of it.
They should, I agree.
And so I'm wondering how we can, make it easier for that to be enforced. I know that it's a situation, I mean, if we had 4 people, we had 4 officers out in the field every day for 1 per quadrant, we can take care of that issue a lot, just writing a citation or something like that. It's tough because these people, because they're cat people. And I have cats at myself, but my cats are all inside the house. I would never let them be.
We have problems on the other side too. Do you remember we had cases where people were trapping neighbors' cats that were
Yeah.
cats? They were outside because they're allowed to be outside and they were trapping them cats. We charged somebody with theft for trapping that cat and then dumping it somewhere else.
If they trap it on their own property, though, they have the right not to have the cat on their property. So, and I always tell people that your cat, when you let it be loose, you are letting that
If
cat.
you're luring it over with food and if you know it's an own cat, it gets kind of murky.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did
you
read,
be careful.
I
Yeah.
read somewhere, and I'm not sure where it was, that if you are going to trap cats on your block, go talk to the neighbors and say, I'm gonna be trapping these feral cats, keep yours inside for the next.
And in the case I'm talking about, it's very rare. It was
Right.
intentional. It was a threat before it happened. And it was somebody who was angry about it now. In general. Because it wasn't a situation, it wasn't.
I think there's positives and negatives to opening up the cat situation.
Oh, I know.
And
I took a life insurance policy out.
I mean, the ones that have been around knows that that's probably a very, very emotional situation. that, can bring out the worst in people. And so, I would ask you guys, if people had an issue with the cat problem, what can they do now? What can they do now to be able to alleviate that, such as your person who's, the cat is damaging your property? I know that when we were going through the cat ordinance, the feral cat ordinance, one of the, DAB board members said that her neighbor had to sell her house because on either side of her, they had two TNR colonies, two people with cats. And she was deathly allergic to cats, and she could not go and sit out on her back porch because the cats would be on her back porch. She could not go there, so she had to move. Now, some people thought it was funny. They said, "Oh, I'm a good realtor, I can get you their house sold," and it wasn't funny. And I think that we as a board need to not just look at the people who own animals, but also our community that is affected by the animals. And be able to give them some support, not to have their lives ruined because we've got a person next door that has to feed kids.
Well, and Emily and I have talked about coming up with a brochure, not a, this is, but here's the law. Here's some suggestions from some of the cat people and rescues in town on how to deal. But we've just had the conversation, so.
So we'll work on some informational materials to put out there, but the recommendation would be to report it, to be as specific as you can when you're reporting it.
And how to, and who do you report? Is there a form? Is it on the government? Is that one of the, I don't think that's one of the complaints.
I don't think it is, but I can look at maybe if
But maybe we could add.
add that. But it's calling the shelter. You can also email the shelter, and.
I've done that. I've done it and I've got to run around.
Well, like I said before, it's a matter of available resources, so we will do what we can do. But you can, definitely still call and make the complaint. The thing is too, is if we go out to the property or we do set traps and we're not able to collect anything, then there's nothing more we can do unless we can give notices, we can issue citations when we have the information, collecting information, or photos or videos and providing any of that information is helpful. And then we can also, and
We're working on it.
you can track.
I know I'm boiling. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Just boiling.
I'm gonna open this up for community and for you guys to speak, okay? Once we're finished discussing, then we'll open it up for you guys to
If
speak.
a citizen called me on this and I get these kind of calls, especially like barking dogs as an example.
Okay.
So I would say this is similar, a nuisance call. I would tell the citizen to make a log of, like, for barking, I tell them, every time you hear that dog bark, mark down how often, how long, what's the duration, and try to tape it on your phone. And then when you've accumulated a few days worth, then you can put the animal services to submit your information. I would say if somebody called me about feral cat pollen, if it's causing problem, I would tell them the same thing. Take at least a week to make a log of everything that's going on, so we have a witness statement, and then take that witness statement to the field services, and we'll see if it's something that's prosecutable.
Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
Like, yeah, it's a real problem. One, like you said, it's an emotional charged issue. From a practical standpoint and from a disease standpoint, it's a problem. I see rescues that be overwhelmed with, people calling, the rescues to bringing in disease, like chickens from a feral cat colony. And it gets overwhelming to even the rescues. There's no, I can't think of a practical way, in a urban setting, the staff that's out in the country, we know what happens to those. And it's a shame, but it just can get cold. And that's not gonna fly with the public, I don't think. You know, from a disease prevention standpoint, you have to call the herd. And that's, I don't know, that puts a target on my back for saying stuff like that. You know,
I think too, you have to look at the health of the cats. Some of the ones on the street are miserable, they don't have anybody taking care of it.
We also need to look at the fact that, Jason, I don't know if you've gotten any of this stuff, but there's been a bunch of stuff about the increase of rabies. And, we did have at least, I think, 4 rabid cats, not within the city limits, but around our city, that were from feral cats. I think there was at least 4 this year so far that were
Yeah.
tested
I
positive.
don't know the statistics on hand, but historically, there's been more, rabies positive cases in cats than there is dogs. You know, I think cats are less likely to roam the packs and attack people, but when someone's trying to help a sick cat, they're liable to get bit. And that's a definite health problem hazard, not only from the standpoint of rabies, but from the standpoint of other infections. You know, my business is trying to help and to try to help with animal suffering and disease prevention. And so I see both sides, because I deal with people every day that are very unfortunately catching cats that they feed, you know, or they tell me that it, you know, and I can't recommend it to the cats, but I can't stop them doing it. You know, unless there's importance, then I'm telling them that, hey, look, that's your freaking importance. No, I can't say that I can't immoralize with you on this, but just be aware that there are ordinances and you could be prosecuted for breaking ordinances.
There are a lot of
That's the answer.
There is a lot, Jason, in chapter 36, ordinance number 6. Is the ordinance 6? Is that what it's?
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6. Because it's kind of like, because I went through and wrote on there. You to own, keep, or harbor a cat over 5 months in the city without having a correct vaccination against rabies is. I mean, there's a lot of things in here that I know we don't follow, but it's because I know we don't have what we need.
And you can't enforce it because we don't have the manpower.
No, we don't.
We don't have the funding to enforce it, and until we achieve manpower and resources, it's going to continue to be a problem. And so that's what it boils down to, I guess, in my position. Is resources and manpower. Until we're ready to provide those resources, hire these people, it's gonna be a problem.
George, you have a hand.
Yeah, I had a question on Emily, on this cats, there was 454 intakes of cats in Ogden. 454. 3 were euthanized, 9 were returned to owner. So where are the other 442 cats?
So actually, that's the adjusted, the adjusted amount is 3, that's the page you're looking on, the page you want to look at. To reference this question. Is.
No, it's 506. Yeah, oh, it's 606. No. It's 406.
Oh, 5-6 is what, yeah, 4-6, so
Here,
what you're gonna.
this is what.
Yeah, 4-6. So you're gonna see, 454 that have come into the shelter during the month of August. 120 of those were euthanized. The bulk of those were neonates or cats that were sick.
So where are those other 300?
Most of them came transferred to the Kansas Humane Society for adoption partner, in which case that they are microchipped and spayed and neutered, which is great. We also have several rescue partners that take, I don't know, if I could guess off the top of my head, maybe a third of the overall the transfer. And so that's where they go.
Oh, wow, yeah, 'cause that's like 300 a month or something that come in and that aren't euthanized, and so that's good that there's that many partners out there. My question is, if and I'm not going to, I was in trouble one time when I said something about cats, I was raised with cats, so trust me, I'm never gonna hurt a cat. But if I trap one, which I'm not going to, but if I did, and I don't know whose cat it is, if I bring it down there to the shelter, how much does the person, which only 9 did that, came and looked for their cat, so I guess they figure their cats are disposable. I don't understand why only 9 came looking for their cat. Unless they had a lot of tiger cats and they couldn't tell which one was theirs. When they called Fluffy, all of them came, I don't know, but, so with that being said, how much is it to get my cat in?
I've removed all reclaim fees for cats because the reclaims are so low and the euthanasia numbers are so high. The only requirement is that you pay your $25 rabies voucher if you don't have proof of rabies, and that voucher then you could take to a veterinarian to get your rabies vaccination.
I think I saw that somewhere, that's a good program, and we need to get that out there so people will come and get their cats back.
It would mean a lot to our staff. This is one of the hardest things on the staff is, cats not being picked back up by their owners and ultimately euthanasia if it's not able to transfer. We do have a general overpopulation of animals, overall, and so I would say that feral cats have a very slim chance of a live outcome. PHS does run what they call a large cat program. So that if people do need, feral cats, ones that aren't indoor and they have, space that don't, they, provide neuter surgery and microchip and all that kind of thing, but it's very rarely used. And so that's a hard part of this, and people, I don't know why I think that, especially if they do have outdoor cats, maybe they don't notice they're missing, and sometimes they don't show up to the shelter within a couple weeks,
We had our first cat, great cat come into our clinic with a city doctor. And, our rabies is only $5, but they wanted to be spayed. Okay, and I was shocked at that. I thought, man, we have so many cats, we should really get them, if they're gonna reclaim, they should really go and spay, whatever. So I don't know if we can put some sort of urgency on getting that done, but we did book her, and we decided that, we charged her, I think it was $50 to have her spayed, plus then the $5 for rabies vaccination, and then she volunteered, she said, I wanna go get the microchip, because by law, they have to be microchipped. And I said,
dogs have to be microchipped.
oh, cats and dogs, both cats and dogs.
Yes, cats and dogs. I was up to.
Oh, okay, yeah, both cats and dogs are mandatory to be microchipped.
Captain, what are you looking at? You're the one that helped us get that one, so the cats and the dogs.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I've got a call work.
Oh, okay, but yeah.
Anyhow, so, I told her that why don't you go ahead and pay this, we're gonna give it to you, but then you're gonna back, you're gonna get you $25 back.
Yes.
It was, and so we did that, we got that taken care of her. But, I was so happy that she did that, so I was a little shocked that there wasn't a spay neuter attached to the cat, because we have far more cat issues than we have dog issues, but they just are hidden.
I just don't have an ordinance that I can charge.
And then I looked at it and I said, well, there's no real ordinance that says, because I looked through the animal ordinance, but,
About what, about rabies or?
no, about making mandatory, for them to picking up us.
And I think that those types of things are, that's a great way to start with our overpopulation, either is the spaying of the cats.
I agree, very few people will come and get their cat.
We wanted to do that, but somebody didn't want us to.
I think that, I'd like to have members of the public, and would you like to say anything? You have people coming. And state your name, please.
Judith Stevens.
Judith Stevens.
I can't remember the numbers, I
That's a
talked in public before, but.
And I'm gonna give you just about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
Unless the.
Is on.
I think so, we're tapping to see, but I think it is, tap the mic.
No, just one. Oh, George to the rescue.
Hello.
No, just.
You got it.
We should have probably turned it off when we weren't using.
Well, I did too fast. The problem is where you can understand me or not. I'm over by Jarlin's property. And when I was growing up, we had dogs on the end of Jarlin property because Jarlin didn't have a fence and the wildlife went into their property. And a lot of the cats would go over into Jarlin's property before they put the fence up while I was growing up. There was a TNR gal in Goodman's house that she died. And she was taking care of the colony of the cats in our neighborhood. When I was growing up, the problem we have now, we never had. There is a pet cat, to answer somebody's comment, there is a pet cat in one of the houses and he has a collar on. And I think he's been spayed and neutered because he stays on the porch all the time. I've been feeding the cats. I only have one cat, my second cat. She's a girl. She was a stray feral cat. A friend of ours gave her to me when she was a kitten. But in our neighborhood, when they move out, they dump their pets. And when I was growing up, my location where I drive into property area, when they used to consider us out in the neighborhood, out of the country. Now they consider us in the country, but we're still considered out of the country. Anyway, the TNR gal died, and ever since we have an overabundance of cats, and we've had 5 male cats that have not been neutered, and they're dying. We have a traffic area because we have a school. It's no longer an elementary school. It has a fence around it. The neighbor north of that used to never have a fence. Now it has a fence around it. So these cats are limited to where they can go in our neighborhood. Now on the other side of Cheyenne, our Cheyenne doesn't go all the way through. On the other side of Cheyenne, they have no problems with cats at all. But we have 2 neighbors in our area, on our side of the Cheyenne Street. The one behind us, they fight over the cats. If he's drunk, he has an issue with the cats. If he's not drunk, they get along with feeding the colony of feral cats around. Now, I consider myself a cat whisperer because I can befriend the cats because I know how to build their trust. Because when we had a police officer living next door to us, we had a stray feral cat that was so injured and ill health that when I took it to the shelter on the Humane Society side, the gal said, "Do you realize how ill this cat is?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "He is so ill that he's suffering. We need to put him under." So that's the kind of cats we get in our neighborhood. Marcia, which is around the block and over by the Joyland property, she is feeding the cats, they're reproducing, and she's letting them get killed because the neighbor next door to her told me that he had had a kitten that she fed and it got hurt and she did nothing about it. The landscape is an issue. I did my research before I came because I can't provide medical care to these cats. And because the gal died makes me so angry that she's messed up our neighborhood with cats. Now, my cat, can't comment on what somebody said over here. My dad used to walk around the block and he ended up running into a neighbor, and the neighbor asked him, "Well, is that your cat?" And he goes, my dad said, "Yeah, that's my daughter's cat." So those cats go a long ways. Now, the water's also been rerouted in our neighborhood because when we had the water, the creek beds, they dried up the creek beds to reroute the water. So now wildlife and the cats are having to go to people in our neighborhood to get water and food because they didn't have the freedom to go to Joyland to get food. They don't have the freedom to go down into the drain to get food and mice. We have a lot of school traffic because of the school, and since Joyland has blocked that road off, that's Fossil, they have to come through our neighborhood. And on these 5 male cats, we had 2 female cats prior to the neighbor dumping the cat next door.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, that I saw a car run over the cat. So there, I have a lot of solutions for a lot of what you guys said, but when I called to get help about this TNR problem, I got the runaround, and I have a brochure right here. It says nuisance, removal, removal of nuisance abandoned cats. And then down here it says, care to sick or injured unowned animals. So the water department, one quick thing, the water department, when I had an issue with the drainage when I had the drainage issue, I went to the guy to get a card. So I called Troy and I told him about the water issue we had. And I said, you know what? We have Asians in our block, we have Hispanics in our block, and we have African Americans in our block. I'm not prejudiced. But they will not feed these cats. Because I told Troy in the water department, I said, you have to send out a mailing because not everybody looks at social media and not everybody looks at news, whatever. And he said, I have it at home, but he sent out a flyer about the water department issue in our water, in our neighborhood. So,
Sir, I'm sorry, we're stressed for 2
yeah, I know.
Um,
So I have answers, and I look at this as a health issue, so you can take care of that feral cats in our neighborhood at least.
thank you very much.
Just a dog, yeah.
Anyone else like to speak?
I'm sorry.
I said, would anyone else like to speak?
Yeah.
Please state your name. My name is
Frida Reynolds.
Can you speak up a little bit louder?
My name is Frida Reynolds. I live in Southwest Wichita. And I had a whole presentation plan. And this meeting was very enlightening for me. I do not think the board or the city council of the city government is doing a very good job of informing the public of the rules and regulations regarding cats, because I knew next to nothing about them. I did some research on the internet over the last days and didn't see any of it out there as well. I am a dog owner. I don't have a problem with cats. I feel like I'm a responsible pet owner. And I would like to see everyone talks about resources. I can tell you the #1 resource you need to be looking at. I have to pay for a license for my dog. I have a huge problem that cats are not licensed. You have an immediate source of resource right there. I pay a discount because my dog is fenced. My dog is neutered and he's chipped. Cats should be required to have the same thing. I know, and research I did, cats are 35% of the households in the United States. Dogs are 45. That's not enough of a spread that we could ignore the cat owners getting scot-free without having to pay for a license for their animal. And the research I know, you have to have a license to have a cow. You have to have a license to have chickens if you have more than 3. Why are cats totally ignored in this area? They spread disease, that's been discussed. I've had cats mess up my mulch because they defecate in it and spray them little pyramids all over my new mulch. I've had to throw away my couch cushions on my porch swing because they defecated on them. My dog was recently injured by trying to chase a cat and scraped his side on a metal fence post. I don't know. I know it's a hot topic with people and a very sore point. I don't understand why. I think it's almost discriminatory that dog owners are punished because I chose to own a dog instead of a cat. I think maybe if people would take their responsibility and they understand they have to pay for this animal, they would have more responsibility regarding it. But I think that something needs to be done. It is a health issue for, my neighbors are feeding the ferals and they're free-ranging cats, which I also have a problem with. The food is available. It's drawing skunks into my neighborhood. My dog's been sprayed numerous times this year. So I would ask that something be done to make restrictions regarding to the cats more prevalent and the laws that we do have make them more aware of to the general public. And I think that something needs to be done to eliminate the free ranging and feral cats. Thank you.
I will say, on that, George, you and I did on the licensing committee, and we did recommend licensing cats. And when we did our research, the cities that we looked at, a lot of cities in the city of in the state of Kansas, they have a license for cats, and there are places where, like Lauren. You can't hear me, okay. I thought I was talking really loud. Anyhow, so we worked on that, we looked at cats, and cats were included. But right now, I think we're working on the licensing, and maybe eventually we can, and that can be approved by the city council to include the licensing of cats. I think also that, we did microchip them, so we do know some sort of owner, but the biggest problem with the licensing of cats is that the person who's feeding the cats are gonna say they're not theirs. And then we need to make sure that we enforce the ordinances as well. If the food's on your porch and they're eating the food, therefore you're feeding the food, they're feeding the cats, therefore the cats are yours. And I don't know how easy that's gonna be. It's gonna be a tough situation, right? But
And as far as the licensing too, I know it was brought up that there's not enough manpower in the licensing as. Yeah, at City Hall, so it has been discussed, but, and it may happen in the future, but it's just. One of those things that.
George?
Full transparency, ma'am, I don't know you, right?
I'm not,
No, that is something that I've been trying to push. So get with me and we'll work together, because I know the person that pushes that to the city council. We
I
can,
just want to reemphasize, you say you don't have a resource. I'm sure not everyone's gonna do it, not everyone licenses their dog as well. You're gonna have resource and income from the cat licensing.
Actually, when we did our research, when the city said, and they were honest, when we did our research, that the numbers of cats that were licensed were so minimal that it didn't, they didn't have a very good outcome with them.
well, there's only 20% of the dogs that are licensed before we started. I don't know what that number is at now. But if they made it where cats had to be licensed, there's a lot of good people, not that bad people wouldn't license, but there's a lot of good people that would. You wouldn't have to use any manpower for some, good
But then-
law-abiding citizen. No, I have to have a cat license. I will go do it because it's the law. You don't have to worry about criminal-like people or people that don't want to do it because they won't. But there'll be good people that'll do it. If we got a budget shortfall coming, we might have some sway.
We have to remember that the licensing does not go, all those revenues do not go to animal services. They go to the general budget, correct? Okay, so even though we get that money, it's not necessarily spent. We can use that as how to budget, increase the budget to some degree, but that money does not come to animal services. Okay, it's a general, that money goes into the general budget.
Okay.
We have another person. Did you want to speak?
Yeah,
You want to come up to the table and speak?
can I speak this here loud? I live at Hilltop Manor Mutual Housing. We have 400 units. We have 27 dumpsters. We have 200 cats easily. To force compliance, if they would attack my neighborhood association, make them enforce their own rules, that would take a big burden off of you guys from having to do so. It's continual over there. We have two of the rescues are coming to my neighborhood, actually have food giveaways. And they're feeding the feral cats with that free food. It's just perpetuating, growing all the time. It can be easily fixed if it's addressed somehow. There's gotta be, they will come in compliance if they're threatened or whatever. I took 6 cats to the shelter last week that one of my members caught because another member told on him that she was feeding him. So we caught him and got rid of him, and I don't know what happened for us. He's glad they're gone. So, but on the other side of the fence, there's another 20 or 30 of them, and they'll be having kids within the next few weeks, and there'll be another 50 or 60.
Yes, that's a fact. And
Are you in Hilltop Manor?
I'm in Hilltop Manor, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, because Hilltop Manor has done a pretty good job of.
They used to do a good job.
Are they not able to? Well, they did go to, animals have to be spayed or neutered. That was
Right.
voted.
Had
And
you
then they
done
also
that,
said they
then
cannot
all
feed the
come
cats.
through there. And it's been a mess. They're still done that. And Hilltop on the other side, they
That's
have,
where you have the problem.
well, not really. It's just as bad in our place because we have the dumpsters and there's no force compliance. The office doesn't want to enforce the rules there. People are not getting their animals spayed and neutered. They're not obeying by the corporation rules, let alone the city ordinances. If the city would tell them, hey, if you don't do this, if you're not living up to your charter, you're gonna have an issue, they might wake up. But if they're not told to do it, they're not gonna do nothing. As we go through different boards, now our president right now, she's a hoarder and she has feral cats. So she ain't gonna enforce that. She's not gonna make the office do that. I can go on and on and on with the crap hole that I deal with every day. And I don't really want to do that, but it's gotta be some sort of force of compliance to make people wake up. I just remember when I knew you're from Wichita spay neuter, can't spay neuter, right?
Yeah.
You spayed my Rottweiler.
Oh, okay. Well, we got you.
Emily, is that something you could maybe get with that Hilltop Manor group and talk to them and say, hey, this.
I really don't want to give you my name because they're already mad at me anyway. And I know there's so many issues we're dealing with over there, but that is one of the biggest ones. As the cats, and let me add one more thing on top of that here. Just this week, I've seen 5 different possums and 2 raccoons shot directly across the street from Flat Park. And there's food out there everywhere. People have it on, I'd say 20% of the yards we dog cat lists.
Okay, we have to move on with this.
Can I just make-
Okay, you want to speak?
Just one quick one, on the animal services main webpage, bottom right-hand corner, frequently asked questions. Nancy said this is the #1 question she's asked. So I would encourage everybody to work together on an educational effort to say, frequently asked questions, what do we do about feral cats? There's no perfect answer, but it at least needs to be a question on the webpage that says, we're engaged in a community discussion and we would like your info on that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I had to go search for my answer.
Is it, okay, we're gonna go, oh, you
You
want
want to say, I just really quick, I have a long, just a second. I just want to add on to her comment about the dogs, going back to. We expect dogs to be perfect and a dog gets out and they're scared and they attack a cat and all of a sudden they're a dangerous dog and they're put down for that reason. But yeah, we let cats run all over. And so, that's just another side of it, like, we expect the dogs to act perfect. We expect the dogs in a scared situation to not attack a cat. And if they do, oh, you're dangerous, you're dead. So it is a problem.
yes,
So
I understand.
that's
I will tell you, Lawrence has got, there's a place that you cannot let the cat run loose. They have some leash laws on cats. So those are something we said. Okay, next up, I'm gonna just do a real quick, because I think this is important for the board to realize that we had some good wins on the KDA AFI situation, okay? I'm so pleased. The first thing that we had changed, these have been proposed changes, okay? We're gonna try and push to make sure that maybe we can do some of this before they're actually approved. The first thing is that they change the definition of business day to a day that the organization was open to the public, which would include weekends. That is a win. That's a great win. And the second one is that they can transport or they can transfer an unaltered animal to a shelter, so it doesn't have to be altered within 10 days. And that the receiving shelter doesn't have to have it done within 10 days. And the next one is they had, which was a wonderful thing, they're now going to allow, if this passes, they're going to allow the ability for shelters and rescues to transfer dogs and cats that have contagious diseases, where before you couldn't do that, they can go to a licensed shelter. There's some specifics on that, but there are some pluses and there's still work to be done, but we're hoping that these new regulations they will help a great deal. Don't you agree, Emily and Aaron?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think, I think that's the one thing that I wanted to speak about. Oh, let's see, business days, the dog had the transfer, and the business days, and the fact that they don't have to be altered, those three things on their own are such big wins, and hopefully they'll get passed. I've been told it's gonna take some time, but perhaps we will be able to, do so without being published, okay, and I think they're working on that now, they're trying to pursue that, so I just want, just an update. Katie, I can't believe it, I'm so thrilled, I think that's gonna be a great thing. All right. And then the next thing is going to be, update on the flyer.
Okay, I have received the draft and, Emily and I'm going through it. So there were some changes, some good and some not so good. Anyway, Emily and I are gonna get together and go through that.
Okay,
And so hopefully we'll have it done by Woodstock. So.
Yes.
And then there's just a couple other things
Or
that,
did you want to ask them about volunteering at this stuff?
yeah, she said Woodstock is October 4th.
October,
Right.
Saturday, October 4th from 10 to 6.
10 to
So if
6.
any of the board members want to join us at our booth, volunteer, we'd love to have you, just let us know what times.
And I told you, because I have to do it first. I can't
You've got
find-
3 minutes, just so you know.
Yeah.
I know, well.
I think we're going to have to,
Okay, just a couple of things. We talked about it, the blankets and toys and stuff, what kind, I got people asking me what material on the blankets, because
Ideally, something like fleece, that it's not gonna get easily ripped or torn, and nothing that's stuffing, and then again, toys, dishwasher safe is the best,
and you still need these papers.
always need.
And, okay, there was only one thing, other thing is, the number of calls we talked about last year was at 12,000.
Yes.
I recently heard or read that the WPD is going to start on some of their calls, complaints or whatever. Where they're going to actually have someone call the people to finalize the case or whatever that. On things that the police would not have to go out to.
Mm.
Do you think that you could, because I think that's a great idea. Utilize social resources.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think that there is a percentage, and if there is, do you know a percentage of calls where if you had a staff member or two that could do that?
Yeah, on call for mail citations for sure. You can do, there's probably 4 of them.
Like if people have questions and they keep, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
So
that
some of that, or minor complaints like the dog barking and the.
yeah, dog barking calls, even though they're a lower priority when it comes to those things, they still take quite a bit of time because they're required evidence. But we can still at least.
It'd be interesting to look
do
at,
citation.
you know, because if it works for them, it hopefully we should be able to utilize that.
Yeah.
Resource with these things. And
okay. I think,
Just real quick, I wanted to tell you because Reggie Davison, who's the park recreation, he said there's 8 dog parks in Clap Park. I called him before. He said the park is open and available for community to use. So in a little bit, they were supposed to be the end of the month. He just sent me a text that the park is, it's ready to go. Clap Park, dog park. They look real nice too. They mowed them and everything.
it's a nice, I like it. Jason, you have anything else?
Nope, it's just funny that.
I'm gonna go ahead, it's time for the end, I'll obtain a motion to, read.
Jason, why don't you make the motion?
I'm gonna do that we, in the meeting.
I second.
In favor, raise your hand and say aye. Okay, thank you, Jason, thank you for being.
I did.
Okay.
I want to apologize.
no, they're big and here.
Thank you, but thank you.